Welcome, class. People in the chat. Watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite podcast platform. It is your humble host, Jeff Marek, along with you today, alongside Zach Phillips and Greg Wyshynski stands by from ESPN. Evander Kane's a Vancouver Canuck. The Edmonton Oilers have an extra $5 million worth of cap space. In a tidy little bit of business that was broken by the player? I swear this has happened before. I just can't remember the name. Like, there was a player before that broke his own trade on social media. I just can't remember who it was. Maybe Wish will remember. Do you know what I'm talking about, Zach? Like, this may have been like 10 or 15 years ago that there was another player that broke his own trade on social media, which to be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised doesn't happen more often, considering how much more comfortable people are on social media now. Players, that is. Just busting their own trade on but I swear that it's happened before, and I want to say it was a Pittsburgh Penguin, but I'm not 100% sure. I know, right? Oh, brain, don't fail me now.
Well, hopefully Wish knows, because I brought it up to you like briefly. I was live on Leafs Morning Take. I hosted this morning with Rosie, and when he broke the trade, I was pretty convinced that it hadn't happened, and Rosie couldn't find anything. I did very brief searching, but I couldn't come up with anything, and then I kind of just moved on with it and continued the rest of show prep for today for us. But I've spent a lot of the day being like, I don't think this has happened before.
Nobody in the chat
said it did.
Nobody in the chat seems to remember, or nobody in the chat seems to know. Maybe I'm making this up. But I don't think I am. I think there's been at least one other player that's done this. Well, first of all, congratulations to brand new hockey insider Evander Kane. That when he's done playing hockey, he's going to get into the trade rumors business, and we welcome him with open arms because we need more news breakers, trade breakers in the hockey industry. But specifically those that don't spread misinformation, right, Kevin Adams? We're going to get to the Buffalo Sabres press conference yesterday. What's that?
I feel bad. I feel bad for the fans.
I feel bad. Randy Workman is saying, okay, Jeff, ignore me. What am I ignoring? What did I do? What did I say now? I love getting chirped in the chat for things that I didn't see go on in the chat. I swear we need someone monitoring the chat that can just sort of call my attention to things.
Well, I tried.
Oh, was it Pronger? Listen, it sounds like a very Chris Pronger thing to do.
Okay, so here's what I've got for you.
Okay.
So these are the two.
Are one of them Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yes. The problem is they both say they did not definitively break the trade. So make of that what you will. One is Max Domi in 2021. When he was traded from Columbus to Carolina, he posted a message on Instagram that essentially confirmed the trade was happening, but it didn't really say to who, what, but it was the
one of those like thank you Columbus for all the great times I had.
But it didn't say where he was going, but also at the same time the rumors he was going to Carolina were happening. So it like confirmed it without confirming it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the other one is Phil Kessel. After being traded from Toronto to Pittsburgh, Phil Kessel didn't exactly break the trade himself, but reports at the time indicated he knew well in advance, and he was already preparing. So he was like publicly preparing for the trade.
Right.
So in neither of those cases did the player like break the trade, but they tipped off the trade was happening before the trade happened publicly.
I'll tell you what.
I'll work on it when Wish comes on and try to give you a better answer than the nonsense I just gave you for the last minute.
No, that's better than what I've come up with. I've come up with feathers. I got 2/3 the square root of sweet FA. You at least have something. I'm serving up feathers on a plate.
That's the best I got.
Yeah, mayonnaise cake with vanilla frosting. Nothing here. Nothing. By the way, have you ever thought about this? Like, if you were a player, like how much you would F around with media? I've talked to Colby Armstrong about this like a number of different times. Like, do you not regret like screwing around with media more than you did? And he was he was fun when he played. Like, Colby is one of the go-to guys. He was always fun, good for a quote, good for a laugh, all of it. But now that he's retired and he's joined the dark side, I've always wondered, like, if I was a player, like, how much would I love just effing around with media? Because he would tell me, like, on trade deadline day, what he would do is he would always find an excuse to leave the ice just to get everyone buzzing. Oh, Colby Armstrong has left the ice. Just and get all of his teammates to do it too. But just do stuff like that and like fake breaking your own trade. Just thanking the people of Montreal randomly. Oh, is he going to be? No, I just want to say thank you. That's all. They're wonderful people.
No, I just want to remind them how much.
So remind them how great they are, man. The best fans. Best fans. Awesome.
We'll have to do that. Maybe chat can send in throughout the show today. Who's the most F around with the media player we have right now? And I'm not talking about like fun person to talk to.
Did you see who won the Stanley Cup? Take your pick.
Yeah. Okay, let's go outside of the Panthers because we just had that. Who is the most F around with the media they have? And not like have fun with them. I'm talking about like full on trolling the media. And
not trolling, but just like... maybe I guess trolling. Well, we'll get Wish's thoughts on it in a second. However you want to put frames around this one, go for it. Because coming up on today's program, we're going to talk to someone very special that we normally talk to on Tuesdays, although that's been blown up. We spent a whole week with him in Sunrise, or Fort Lauderdale, really. And then now this week he's on Wednesday. Daily Outline is powered by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up on the program today, you love him, Greg Wyshynski. Him and his bullshitty clickbait. More on that in a moment. Greg Wyshynski. I thought you'd like that one. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Even I have to stop and laugh at that. Greg Wyshynski will be by. Talk about Evander Kane. I'm going to try to keep it together. No promises. We'll talk about Evander Kane, new Vancouver Canuck. We'll talk about other trades. Wish has a piece at ESPN.com right now about Connor McDavid and the future of Connor McDavid. There's a couple of real money quotes in there from a couple of sources, let's just say, that I want to go over with him. We'll talk about the Hockey Hall of Fame, the class that was announced yesterday, and one that we look forward to. And then if we have some time, we'll talk about free agency coming up on July the 1st. In the meantime, here he is. You love him. And once again, he's a presentation of Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for hockey, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. Phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on hockey. When it's hockey time, it's go time. Our man from ESPN. His latest available now at ESPN.com about Connor McDavid. He is the one and only Greg Wyshynski. And he joins me right now. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Been trying to figure out the answer to your question on which current player has the most fun with the media.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody on the level of Kevin Bieksa impersonating Ryan Kessler during an interview, which was a real thing that happened when both of those guys were playing with Vancouver.
A real thing that happened. Yes, but I think Zach was going for like the player today in the league right now. Like, I really want to see the Carolina Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup just to see, like, the next level of fun that Seth Jarvis can have with the media.
He could. So the guy that I immediately came to mind, and he might not do it as much as he used to, is Ryan Reeves. Like, Ryan Reeves very much understood what we were looking for and what he had to provide us, especially when it came to rivalries, like, for example, with Evander Kane. I would say the guy who is the most... I don't want to say combative, but certainly conversational with the media might be Draisaitl. If we're leaving the Florida Panthers off the table, like Draisaitl is honest to a fault, like really push back on the whole these guys are getting under our skin thing. Like he had the entire thing in the Stanley Cup final about how the Panthers don't drive him crazy. It reminded me of when someone called the Joker crazy in The Dark Knight. And he like just kind of took offense to it, right? So I would say Leon has always been sort of up there as far as guys that like to interact with the media, but nobody on the level of like Kessler and Bieksa.
No one's even close there. But I mean, there's a lot of guys that after they exit the NHL, one of the regrets they had is like, I wish I would have screwed around with the media more. I've talked to Colby Armstrong about this. He's like, yeah, I did it to a certain extent. Like I was saying before he came on, he would, on trade deadline day at the morning skate, he would always find a reason to leave the ice. just to mess around with everybody, getting on their phones, Colby Armstrong, but like just little things like that. And a lot of guys like, you know what, I wish I would have had more fun. Wish I would have had more fun at the expense of the media. Now, what got this conversation rolling is, and I was trying to figure out whether this happened while we were doing the OG MVSW, or maybe I'm just making it up in my head. So Evander Kane broke his own trade today, which is a very Evander Kane thing to do. But didn't someone else do that previous? And wasn't that a Pittsburgh Penguin who did it?
I was listening to you in the lead up, and I cannot remember who it might have been.
I can't remember either.
I don't recall if that happened or if it's just one of those Jeff Marek. Like sometimes your memories are things that you wish could have happened, and maybe you wish them to happen so hard that they actually did happen in your brain.
I think you're probably right.
That's why I worry about you in the age of AI. I sometimes think about you and say, Jeff's going to see something and he's going to believe that it actually happened, and it did never happen. It's just AI. I think that's probably we're probably like a month away from that happening on the show.
Could be. Next season could be spectacular.
Can you explain to me like what the hell the Canucks are doing here with Kane?
I think we're all wondering that. I think maybe they're looking at it. It's a 1 year short term risk. Read the marketplace. We're having a hard time getting anybody in here right now. We need NHLers. We're losing Brock Besser. We need a top 6 winger. This is what's available to us. It's not going to cost us any assets. It's going to cost us cap space. And Evander Kane on the final year of a contract is most likely on his best behavior, and either he's going to earn himself another contract or he's going to be a trade chip for someone at trade deadline.
Well, on top of that, it's also the bring him home thing, right? Like the idea if you bring him back to the place where he's from, then maybe he's going to be on his best behavior then, young family, yada, yada, yada. Like, and that character leap of faith with him, too, in that situation.
And here's where they're insulated. They weren't the first. They weren't the second. But the Vancouver Canucks were third in one category last year in the NHL. Do you know what that is?
PIMS?
Penalty kill. They're good.
Oh, penalty kill.
Yeah, they got this. Don't worry. Go do your thing.
That's really funny.
You got this.
I mean, like, it's just really funny that, like, what's the knock on Besser all these years? His inability to stay in the lineup. And they just traded for a guy who didn't play the entirety of the regular season last year. 2
surgeries.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing, too, is what's the knock on the Canucks last year? Oh, the toxicity in their locker room. And they just traded for Evander Kane.
No, I know, but I think that's more in Edmonton, as I understand. This was not like the Winnipeg. This was not like the Buffalo.
But again, like look where the bar is set for Winnipeg and Buffalo. It was not Winnipeg. His tracksuit was dry. It was not Buffalo. He did not do the things off the ice he did in Buffalo. But from what I understand, there's no love lost here. There's no going away party with a giant bon voyage Evander and balloons happening. Like, I think they're pretty happy he's no longer part of this team. He's kind of like that's just what I understand. Okay, it's not to the level of Winnipeg or not to the level of Buffalo, but he's still that guy. And frankly, like, it's kind of a surprise that after all of the drama and all of the bullshit that they went through last year, like, their idea is to bring in Evander Kane into that locker room.
I have a totally frivolous question that you're probably not used to coming from me.
Yeah.
Who will be the last Atlanta Thrasher standing in the NHL? Evander Kane or Zach Bogosian? We're down to 2.
We're
down to 2 Atlanta Thrashers.
We're not even into the Evander Kane. Who?
Nikolai Ehlers?
No, Ehlers was a Winnipeg Jets draft pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's Kane, because we haven't even gotten. Maybe this is going to be the start of it. We haven't gotten to his 1-year contracts with contenders. Corey Perry. We need truculence years. Like, we're on the precipice of it, probably. Look, I'm not trying to say he's not a productive player when he's in the lineup. He can be a very productive player when he's in the lineup. And, you know, I don't think it was ultimately effective. And he wound up with more penalty minutes in like the first 3 games of the Stanley Cup final than he had in the entirety of the playoffs leading up to it. But I mean, there was something to be said, and you tried to sell me on it, the idea of Evander Kane being a Florida Panthers countermeasure. So if you're the Canucks and you're like, we've got to increase our physicality and our truculence and our, we need a guy who can disturb the shit a little bit with JT Miller no longer there. Like, I understand that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just like all of the other stuff that is Evander Kane, and especially taking on the full freight of the contract. It's just
no salary with fourth round pick goes the other way. Yeah. No salary retained. Yeah. From the Oilers' point of view, all of a sudden, like, we know that Evan Bouchard is going to probably take up 10 on their cap, either by Stan Bowman or by the arbitrator. One way or the other, he's getting somewhere in that neighborhood. But now, like, what do they have? Like $16 million worth of cap space. Large chunk of that is going to go to Evan Bouchard. We know that. But they have room to play with now.
Do they? Because like the other chunk of it goes to Draisaitl's raise. Like, that's the other part of it too. He goes to $14 million against the cap next year.
Fine, but they still have $16 million in cap space. And 10,
between Bouchard and that contract, you don't have a whole hell of a lot. But they'll clear some more out. You have
$16 million next year. You have $16 million next year.
Is that counting Bouchard and Draisaitl?
No, that's counting Draisaitl, but not Bouchard.
That's what I'm saying. So like, you don't actually have. My point is this: is that they will have wiggle room. They've created room with Kane. They'll create more room with Arvidsson, and then it's just a matter of where they want to address, and what they want to address. You'd figure it's goaltending, although Stan Bowman was kind of like a little hedgy about that, talking about how Skinner and Pickard outplayed Kemper, Aiden Hill, and Jake Ottinger on the way to the Stanley Cup final, and oopsie-doo, things just switched all of a sudden when they got to the final.
Listen,
3 out of 4 rounds, they were great. He said,
I know.
Got me a little bit worried.
In Skinner's defense, Vegas, awesome. Dallas, awesome. And then it just all crumbled here. But again, like I've always maintained, like Edmonton doesn't need Shesterkin. They just need someone that can make basic saves in the Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup.
They
final.
need someone where you don't have the embarrassment of trying to figure out who your starter is in a Stanley Cup final elimination game. Like that is.
I know
you are a Stanley Cup contending team playing in the final round. You're one of the last 2 teams standing, and you don't know who's going to start in goal for you in an elimination game. It's insane.
I know.
It's insane.
I understand all that, and that's what they have to go out and address. The problem is there's no secrets here, and no one's doing him any favors here. And everybody knows that if the Oilers are going to get a goaltender that's going to meet your criteria here, they're going to have to overpay because they've spent a lot of years saying, that's too much for a goalie. And then now we're asking ourselves, do you wish you overpaid back then to get that guy? Like, it seemed like ever since Jacob Markstrom sort of did the turnaround and said, no, I'm not going to sign with Edmonton, I'm going with Calgary, they're offering an extra year, everything has just been a scramble in net. But along the way, there have been offers. But mainly it's Ken Holland who's always said, no, that's too much. No, we're not going to pay that much. No, we're not paying that rate.
Right. But this is what I talked about in the McDavid piece on ESPN.com today.
I want to get there.
But like, so, part of the situation right now is that the Oilers do have to improve. And part of the situation right now is that the Oilers have limited assets with which to improve. McDavid himself talked about the cupboard being bare as far as high-end prospects. They were ranked, I think, 29th by the Athletic in prospect pipeline. Someone pointed out that the Panthers, I think, are 31st. But here's the difference between the Panthers and the Oilers. All of the prospects that they have that they no longer have, and all of the draft picks that they had that they no longer have, were sent away in service of Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, Seth Jones, Brad Marchand. These are the products of having shipped out all of those futures. The Oilers don't have any futures, and they don't have Sam Bennett or Sam Reinhart or Brad Marchand or Seth Jones. Like, they don't have any of that. And some Oilers fans, I think, misunderstand when we talk about their prospect pool being a puddle, like what that ultimately means. It doesn't mean they don't have young players to populate the lineup, although that would help. And they certainly had 2 that are now in St. Louis.
Assets.
Right. It's about assets. It's about the ability to then turn those assets into John Gibson or some other goalie that you can can come in and fix your problem. And they don't have it right now. And that's part of the math going forward for McDavid insofar as
So
how long to sign, whether to sign. It's all part of the discussion right now that he's having internally, and then also having with the Oilers brass.
So let's get there. I really enjoyed your piece on Connor McDavid at ESPN.com. And the money line in it is everything's on the table. The other great line in that one from one of your sources, people close to the situation telling me that McDavid is looking for a reason to stay. Show me the reason to stay. Like we talked about this initially after his press conference, where he wasn't willing to commit, and there was a lot of, well, having said that, I need to take care of my family. I need to talk to blah 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 blah. We
With that being said, the four words that shook the city to its core.
I know. And I agree with whomever gave you that quote, because I firmly believe that he is looking for a reason to stay. Give me a reason to continue this relationship. Now this is the Oilers auditioning for Connor McDavid to sign a contract extension. This is a really interesting piece. Walk us through from your point of view what you think the more salient points are. And I would direct people to ESPN.com to read this Greg's piece on Connor McDavid. Not bullshitty clickbait, by the way. It's not bullshitty clickbait. This is like real. This is real good stuff here.
Yeah. I talked to a bunch of people around the situation, and then, obviously Connor said his piece, and then Stan Bowman said his piece after Connor said his piece. And the picture that I got was a sense that, like you said, he's looking for a reason to stay, and the reasons to stay are not just that Leon Draisaitl signed a long-term contract, which is something that you and I talked about in January. Mm-hmm. Others saw that reporting and felt it was bullshitty clickbait. They're clearly wrong. The entirety of the hockey media is now writing stories about McDavid's future because it wasn't guaranteed that if Leon signed, that Connor would sign, which is what I reported, and I was right. So guess it wasn't bullshitty. The thing that I wonder now is, what do they have to show him in order to get him to sign long-term? Is it a plan, going forward? Is it a plan for next season? Is it simply fixing the goaltending?
I don't think it's just for
what are the
season.
Things that he has to see in order to feel.
He said didn't he say something along the lines of like long-term success? Like I don't think Connor McDavid is just interested in one and done. Like he wants to be on a consistent winner. I would still maintain you're on one right now. You just been to the Stanley Cup final two years in a row. Like you're the envy of all these other teams around the NHL.
I mean, that's Bowman's pitch. Bowman's pitch is like, you're on a winner right now, and I think it's undeniable that the team went to the Stanley Cup final consecutive seasons. The thing I find fascinating is that, one, there's clearly a debate within McDavid as to what to do, and leaving is on the table. That's just a fact. The other thing is that, obviously, like I wrote, he's got roots in Edmonton. Not only the team he was drafted with and played for 10 years, and Draisaitl's there, and Nugent Hopkins is there. His wife not only has, investment in a restaurant, but her offices for her company are 2 floors up from that restaurant in the same building. Like they've got a beautiful house. Like they've got roots there. Mm-hmm. And so, using the old Greg Wyshynski equation of, is his stuff there? Yes, then he'll stay. There is something to be said for his stuff being there, and he will probably stay. As fun as it would be for him to hit the open market and have all of these teams clearing the decks to sign them, I'm not saying that's impossible, but I do think that his current thinking is, I want to stay in Edmonton. Give me a reason to stay in Edmonton. Give me a reason to stay long-term in Edmonton. And so the question that becomes, Marek, is if he doesn't get the answer, would he go 4 years to stay in Edmonton as a good faith commitment to the organization, a chance to try to win a cup while he's in his prime and Leon's in his prime and Nuge is still there? Would he stay for a shorter period of time so that he could go and still cash out in his early 30s? And that's the part of this that I find really interesting.
Here's what I find interesting about this one. If there's anybody in the NHL who can just say, look, I want the max percentage, it's Connor McDavid, right?
Easily.
Right now they're at the mercy of what Connor's ask is. Like when they get down to actually doing this contract, it's going to be quick because it's going to be, what do you want? Just please leave us some dignity and let us
There's no negotiation.
and let us put a team together. Right. And the last time he did a contract with the Edmonton Oilers and it was all done, it was McDavid that went back and said, no, you know what? Take some money off because we need to have money for Leon Draisaitl. Here's the situation too with McDavid, and this it clearly isn't lost on him. On the one hand, he wants to get paid and he deserves to get paid. No one would argue about that for 1 second. On the other hand, he knows every extra dollar he takes means it's less of an opportunity for Stan Bowman to create a winner there. Does he deserve more than Leon Draisaitl? Even though Draisaitl this year had a better season than he did? Yes, he did. Yes, he does. Clearly. How much more? How much more does he feel he deserves? How much does he want? How much does he need through all of this? Knowing that his own criteria for staying is we need to be a winner. You want Edmonton to win? Take a $10 million contract. We all know that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to. It's not going to happen.
I mean, if it's a 1-year deal, like that's feasible. I don't think it would happen, but it could happen. The only two guarantees we know about the money is that he's not taking 19, and he's not taking any less than Leon. Like his next contract will be the richest contract from a cap hit perspective in NHL history.
Yeah,
I think the range is probably 15.5 to 19. Like anywhere in there is probably where it ends up from a cap hit perspective, considering where the numbers are going with the cap.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's probably closer to 15.5 because
and then you say,
he does want to give the team the wiggle room.
Can you win with that? I don't know.
Well, you can because we have seen time and time again the Oilers get dragged to the Stanley Cup through the Stanley Cup playoffs by virtue of having two guys. You could do it when the two guys are Draisaitl and McDavid. And I think that's the difference between this and other situations where two guys, like when Taves and Kane needed a team around them to try to go to the Stanley Cup final. Like Connor and Leon just take the Oilers there themselves. As much as the supporting cast got the credit and whatever the hell we were talking about for the last 3 rounds, like at the end of the day, it's Connor and Leon. And so if those are the guys that you're paying a large percentage of your cap, that you just do it because they've shown that they can get you there.
Anything more? And I'll direct people to ESPN.com and your piece on Connor McDavid. Anything else on Oilers? There's a couple more things I want to do here. And one of them is pretty self-indulgent.
I thought Connor was really interesting in his press conference in the sense that he not only did the and that being said part about himself and his family and what's best for them.
Yeah.
But the Oilers media, or Edmonton media, I should say, was putting so many hooks in the water for this kid to just be like, I love it here. I'm staying. This means so much to me. And he never went
He never
there.
took the bait. Yeah, I know.
He always went back to one common theme. And again, this is the part that makes you wonder whether there will be the opportunity for him to leave. He always brought it back to the ability to win. And Stan Bowman himself said, I met Connor after I took this job from Kenny Holland. We went to his house. The entirety of the conversation was about winning the Stanley Cup. That's all it was.
Yep.
Didn't talk about the dog. Didn't talk about his fear of ketchup. Didn't talk about any of that other stuff we know about Connor.
That's a Gary Roberts thing. I told you that already.
Winning Stanley Cup. And so the fact that every time he was presented with a chance to be like, I'm an Edmonton guy. This is my spot. I want to stay. He never went there. He only talked about winning, whether it was in Edmonton or just in general. And so that's like 5% of me that still thinks he could hit the open market and become like the LeBron James, the decision for the NHL, which is the comparison, but not totally, because there is absolutely no way that Connor is taking his talents to South Beach after what they chanted about him in that club. But it would be fascinating. And I still think that there's a chance that it could happen. Like I'm not writing off the idea that he could hit the open market, that he could go UFA, that he could end up in New York or wherever, all the other places we've been talking about. But after reporting out the story, I quoted that one source, like, he's looking for a reason to stay. Ultimately, I think they'll give him one. It might just take a while for this to play out, and then it becomes a question of, for how long does he commit to Edmonton?
And at what point is he comfortable saying, okay, now you've given me, like, Stan Bowman can go and, redo large chunks of this team this off season, but Connor still needs to see it in action, still needs to see it on the ice. Does that mean Christmas? Does that mean calendar flip?
Maybe he just hates Evander Kane and it's just like, I'm signing July 1 now. Who knows? Who's to say?
It's a little bit deeper than that, I would imagine. I think the cat just wants to win. I really do. Okay. First of all, quick thought, not to dwell too much on it, but quick thought on the Hall of Fame announcements yesterday. From your Charas to your Thorntons to your Botterolls to your Parkers, etc. This one's a stacked field.
It's one of the most accomplished classes, from the players to the builders, that I think we've seen. A little bit surprised that they went Decker instead of Megan Duggan on the womenmen's front.
She is going to get there. We all know she's going to get there.
She'll get there. And I wrote about the women today in my class of 2026 piece. There's some. I hope that this trend continues where they're taking 2 women every year. They've done it now for 2 consecutive seasons for the first time, because there's a ton of people in the queue. No qualms with it. If you were going to take first ballot, first year people, these are the 3 that you should take, because I don't think that Carey Price nor Ryan Getzlaf deserve that honor. But certainly Zdeno Chara, Joe Thornton, and Duncan Keith did. And obviously, the McGillney thing, we've talked about it a billion times. This was getting into Pat Burns territory for how embarrassing it was for the Hockey Hall of Fame to have not put him in by now. So they rectified the situation. Although the funniest thing that happened yesterday during the announcement was them talking about how they called McGillney at 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, you're in the Hockey Hall of Fame." And the dude just went right back to sleep and wasn't around for the media call. That's perfect.
Don't forget, this is the same guy. I was mentioning this yesterday. This is the same guy that refused to fly back to North America to collect the Lady Byng trophy. Do not be surprised by anything that Alex McGillney does. I was telling the story about that scrum at the Maple Leafs. I can't remember which series it was. I think it was Bob Harwood that asked the question, do you feel any pressure heading into the series? And he said, the only pressure I feel is in the morning when I have a cup of coffee. Which is still one of the all-time great scrum lines that I've ever heard from a hockey player. I miss Alexander
by the
McGillney.
way,
yeah.
The MVP yesterday of the Hockey Hall of Fame announcement was Duncan Keith, because he was the only one of the 4 that was on the conference call. So it was literally Duncan Keith being like, "What was it like to play against McGillney? What was it like to play against Thornton? Are you happy for Chara?
Tell us about Chara."
So, good job out of Duncan Keith keeping that thing afloat.
Okay, here's
I don't know. I don't think I would change a thing about it. Would you change a thing about that class?
No, not at all. I mean, again, it's going to take a group, and I believe that there's a group working on this right now to nominate and bring forward Red Berenson. I think Red Berenson. I'm really glad that Jack Parker went in, and that is certainly well deserved. I hope that, because we always wonder about, okay, who does this open the door for? I wonder if they dovetail Jack Parker with someone submitting an application, or a nomination rather, for Red Berenson, and that finally gets read in. That's what I hope.
So I think that'd be awesome. Now, you are significantly older than me, as everyone knows.
Significantly. Oh, my hip.
I was unaware until I was researching Jack Parker a little bit yesterday that he was offered the 1980 U.S. men's Olympic team job.
Oh, yeah.
And then turned it down, and that's how it went to Herb Brooks. I was unaware
Herb's
of that.
Fascinating. Herb's a fascinating guy in a lot of, I mean, one of my favorite things about Herb was he was the last cut on the 1960 team, the Squaw Valley team. The original Miracle on Ice. Herb, there's a lot of. First of all, I would love it if Herb Brooks were here. I'd love it if Badger Bob Johnson were still with us here too, because a lot of great hockey history and a lot of great hockey stories have gone along with them. To say nothing of how much their family wishes that they were still along too. But Herb's a fascinating guy. Like still to this day, I don't know if you still get this, but every now and then, when a coach loses it on a team, like NHL coach loses it on a team, I'll be talking to someone like blah blah blah. What happened after that game? And it's always, oh man, he went Herb Brooks. He went Herb Brooks on the team. Like, oh yeah, they just lost their 9th game in a row. He's peeling paint and going Herb Brooks on these guys. I just love that Herb is still a huge part of the vocabulary around the NHL. Okay, so something I mentioned on the show yesterday, and I am serious about this. And you may think it's, America's another stupid idea, but here we go. And I really do want this to happen one day, because I think it gives sort of a new perspective on the Hockey Hall of Fame, might give them a new wing, gives them something new, maybe to sell as well. Maybe there's a revenue stream attached to this. There is a theater there after all. How about we also nominate games? Individual, like Miracle on Ice, you just mentioned Herb Brooks. Does that game go into the Hall of Fame? And then you have a wing where you can go to the Hockey Hall of Fame and watch that game. You can go and watch what I think should go in first, which is the Summit Series, not Game 8, the one where Henderson scores, but Game 1, where the Soviets win. And everything changes in hockey. That is the game that changed hockey in Montreal at the Forum. Maybe it's that Saturday night in Montreal this year between USA and Canada. Is that a Hall of Fame game? Maybe it's Darryl Sittler's 10-point night and poor Dave Reese, who was never heard from again after. Is that a Hall of Fame game because there are Hall of Fame moments in there? How would you feel about the idea of there being a separate wing in the Hockey Hall of Fame for games? We have players, we have builders, we have broadcast awards and writers. What about, we keep hearing the game's the most important thing. Damn it, put a game in. Put a game in the Hall of Fame.
I think it's a cool idea. What I'm envisioning for the Hockey Hall of Fame, and again, you'd have to probably build a little bit of, or maybe you can convert the food court next to it into this theater. But like the idea that you do a theater that's kind of like an Alamo Draft House. So you have yourself some beers, and you have yourself some dinner, and you have a big screen in front of you, maybe like 4 or 5 rows of seats. And then you're like, tonight, 7:00, we're showing, the Miracle. We're showing the Summit Series. We're showing Game 7 of the most banger Stanley Cup final ever. And then you buy tickets to it, and then you watch it like a movie. And like, you couldn't find 60 people in Toronto to do this 3 times a week.
It could be
like,
a cool date.
It would be such a cool idea for the Hockey Hall of Fame to do that.
And you have someone come out to give some pretentious podcast host. I don't know, to come out and do like a presentation about the game. Oh, I'm trying to find myself work after all.
That's what this is about. Finding you another gig.
Give me another gig.
Unbelievable. This is all about Marek.
Kelly Massey at the Hall of Fame, if you're listening.
But then you can expand. We just talked about Herb Brooks for 5 minutes. Like, you could expand it to movies. You could do a Miracle night. You could do a Goon night. Have Barishaw up there to talk about Goon. Like, you could do a number of different things in that theater. I think it's an awesome idea, especially like I said, in the center of the hockey universe, you could probably find people to populate it. Hall of Fame thought number 3, class of 2026. I'm thinking.
You wrote about this.
Bergeron's a lock. He's should be in there already, if he were eligible. I think Bergeron, Carey Price, Ryan Getzlaf. I think they keep it at 3 next year. Do you think so? The question is, if it's not 3, then do they go Kachuk? Do they do Elias? Do they do Zetterberg? Do they do Gonchar? Do they go off the board? What would they do for the 4th, assuming that those guys are the 3? And do you think those guys are the 3 for 2026?
So one of the accents that the Hall of Fame has put on their selections the last couple of years, they've tried to clean up the goalie issue, for one, as I'm sure you've noticed. Goalies have been woefully underrepresented.
The year Lundqvist got in, they 100 goalies got in.
I know. They tried to
make up for lost time.
Oh, boys and girls here. We got to clean up the goalies. People are talking. So I don't know. Do you start to have a closer look at Curtis Joseph? I have always been banging the drum for a defensive defenseman. You and I have had the Rod Langway conversation countless times, and how that type of player is woefully underappreciated and underrepresented. To that point, I will always submit Adam Foote. I don't know. I really do. Like I think that in that classic defensive defenseman mold, I think of the last generation. I think that Adam Foote was an incredible defenseman. Rob Blake got all the headlines on that team, and that's fine. But man, was Adam Foote a great defense? Like for somewhere down the road, like to essentially to create a path for one day a player like, or maybe even him, Jacob Slavin, to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, just to have an appreciation of that type of skill. I don't know. Do we start to have, now that he's a general manager of some repute now, more of a conversation about Pat Verbeek getting in the Hockey Hall of Fame? As someone pointed out to me yesterday, they just sent me a text. This is someone, quote unquote, in hockey. Oh, the Hall of Fame got it wrong again. I said, what do you mean? And I said, another year, no Pat Verbeek. He's got similar numbers to Cam Neely.
He does.
You know how like Pavel Bure opened up the door for Eric Lindros? I know it's it's different. It's
Neely
different.
And those guys.
That's different.
It's always like that's resetting the bar.
I know.
Now you bring up Bure and Lindros, and I'm glad you did, because it's almost like you read my mind. Because if you're talking about goalies, right? Yeah. I wrote about this today on ESPN.
Lauren Shabbat?
Talking about goalies. No. So Bure and Lindros are both in the Hall of Fame for having been dominant for a particular stretch of seasons. In Lindros's case,
peak performance.
It was peak performance, and then obviously it tapered off, and Bury's was more like a limited number of games. Yeah. So if we are to allow the induction of skaters for having peak performance for a certain number of years, and then the rest of it might not necessarily rise to the level of Hall of Fame, what do we then make of Ryan Miller and Tim Thomas? In particular, Tim Thomas, who had to wait until he was 28 years old to make the NHL because he was a journeyman bouncing around every league you could name before that. But from like, what was it, like 2008 or 9 through like 2012, he was Hasek. Like he was Hasek. Like he won.
Played like him too. He played like him as well.
Two Vezinas and a Conn Smythe, and so. And Ryan Miller again, like there was a time in which Ryan Miller's career, right around 2010, when he was the U.S. Olympic goalie, where he was sort of the peak of performance for goaltenders, and he was seen as being Hasekian in the sense that he was making the Buffalo Sabres infinitely better than they should have been. But Thomas is the one that I always pause on, because man, like the numbers he had in that stretch
they're stunning,
godlike. But he doesn't have the longevity, and everything he did before and after that is not Hall of Fame worthy. But if we're going to have the peak performance argument about Lindros and Bure, I wonder if you could make it about a goalie too.
Okay, then I think we should probably have the conversation then. If you're just looking as peak performance for a few years, Pete Peters. Because Pete Peters was that guy. I'm trying to think of other goaltenders. Look, Mike Liut in the 80s. Phenomenal. Yeah. You could probably do it for a few goaltenders here. Those are the two. Pete Peters and Mike Liut would be the two that jump out to my mind right away. Boy, it's tough because longevity is such a thing too, right? Like that's such a thing that everyone sort of hangs, and players pride themselves on that. Oh, this guy played 18 years in the show. Whoa, 18 years, regardless of production. Like he played that long. Like when players talk to each other, be a thing
for Patrick Marleau's sake, like that's the entirety of the argument for Patty Marleau. Who, by the way, when Thornton got into this year, I was like, oh, are they going to do it? Are they going to do the cute thing where they put in the teammates?
I know.
But alas, it did not happen.
Okay, a couple more things before I wrap here. Do you have a thought on one of yesterday's big news stories? Trevor Zegras to the Philadelphia Flyers. We've seen it coming for a while, but finally pulled the trigger. And I felt bad for John Tortorella and Rocky Thompson, who've been screaming for either that player or someone like him for the power play, which absolutely crushed the Flyers last year. They get dusted, and the Philadelphia Flyers bring in someone to help them on the power play right away. Over to you, Rick Talk.
I love it. I really do. Like, for the Flyers. I should say. I love it. He was the Ducks clearly like Karlsson and McTavish more than Zegras. Yeah. And I think Zegras's life in Anaheim is probably spent on the wing. And now he has a chance to play his natural position in Philadelphia. He has a chance for a fresh start. There are definitely flaws in his game. And I think that some of the attitudinal stuff that was going on in Anaheim just gets fixed by no longer being in Anaheim. He was always a bit better defensively than he was given credit for, if you look at the analytics in Anaheim. And so then he comes to the Flyers, gets to play his natural position, gets to work with a coach in Rick Tocchet that I think is going to really drum in fundamentals without being someone who's going to crush his soul like Greg Cronin did, and has a chance to sort of like have a star shine a little bit in a big market. I think it's great. It reminds me of the kinds of trades that teams should be making, and I specifically think about our two-time reigning Stanley Cup champions making an aggressive bid to acquire a fourth overall pick out of Calgary, who didn't actualize the way they thought he would in Calgary. Yeah. Although showed promise at times, and then was imported down to Florida and became a Conn Smythe winner. I'm not saying that's the path for Trevor Zegras. Him and Sam Bennett are two very different players, but I am saying that teams should do more of this. Find the distressed asset, pay the price for him, and then expect that hopefully he can kind of get back on track and recapture the magic. It doesn't always work, but in the times it does work, then you look back on it after you've won the Eastern Conference and you say, this is one of the moves that we made along the way that got us here.
You know who's trying to do this and has for a couple of years now? Dubas with the Penguins. Second chance guys between the ages of 22 to, what do you figure, 26? Right in there, maybe 25. Like that's that, and like it's kind of been a revolving door of them. Let's see if other teams have missed here, and let's see Seattle putting them on a team with. There's another one, Seattle. What did you make of that? What did you make of that trade? What did you make of that trade? By the way, Burakovsky, Veleno. I was saying this the other day. Veleno stuns me because I look at like all the things that go into making him play, like skating, size, shooting, like all of it. Guy's got a laser of a shot. He's got big, good skater. Like by all accounts, like if you look at all the individual skills that Joe Veleno has, how is that not better? Like how is that player? I cannot figure it out. I don't get it.
My reaction to that trade was the same reaction as an NHL executive I spoke with had, which is
2 buyout candidates.
What is Kyle Davidson doing? like what are you doing? It's just you're desperately casting away to try to find some veteran scoring talent for your team, and you end up with Andre Burakovsky, and it's just like, what are we doing? I mean, the cost was low, and it's just whatever. But it's not. There's nothing that has happened in Chicago recently that inspires confidence that the path is good for Connor Bedard and company at this point. But hopefully that changes in the offseason. I like Kyle. I wish him Davidson, I should say. I wish him the best, but it's just nothing's really impressing me much insofar as the building of that roster right now.
Okay, really quick. You want to stick around for the crispy inbox with us? You got 2 seconds? Okay, because I think this might be fun.
Do I have 2 seconds?
Like what else are you going to do? You don't have a game to go to.
In the crispy inbox.
What are you doing now? Just hang out for the crispy inbox. Time now for the Ninja Crispy inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. Zach.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
This is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. And, by the way, in this week where everybody lies to you or everyone deceives you, I'm sure we've all heard some whoppers leading into the draft on Friday. You know what someone mentioned to me today? One of the things that they had heard from a team?
Go ahead.
Would it be possible for the Islanders to trade the first overall pick and get 2 other picks in the first round like this? Trade the first overall pick, Matthew Schaefer, trade the first overall pick to a team that's lower than them, get their pick plus players, then use those players to get another pick that you trade to that team in exchange for their pick, which is also in the top 10. This is the level, like, as you get closer to the draft, like, the goofier stuff comes out because everyone's just talking. Everyone's just talking, speculating right now.
So on the Islanders part, so on Friday I'm going to be at the Islanders draft party. That's my bit of the NHL
awesome.
Draft coverage this
great.
time, because like there was no reason for me to go to LA because it's decentralized, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I wrote about this on ESPN recently. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility they do trade into the top 10, like after taking Schaefer to take Higgins.
Yeah.
I think this is a.
I just can't see him get. I can't see Nashville looking at, unless Caleb Desnoyers is there. Maybe they go. I think Nashville's got to come away with a center, and there are so many centers in this draft.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, but like, so I mean, they're clearly dangling Romanoff as a trade asset, and we'll see what that can conjure up and how much else they have to throw into a package to trade it to the top 10. But they're in such a mode right now of trying to move so far away from the Lamoriello years into an era of not only marketing and offense and pizzazz and let's fill the building, but also John Collins, the co-owner and the guy who ran their GM search, mentioned community outreach. Like, they want, when people say hockey on Long Island, they want the first thing to come to mind to be the New York Islanders. And that connection with the community has atrophied a little bit over the last few years, which is insane because they just built a new building right by Belmont Park. Higgins has clearly become a cause de celebrity for the some Islanders fans who are driving around with bumper stickers, that one of them in which he saw, by the way, which is hilarious. Yeah. Bring him home. So I do wonder if they find a way to not only make people at their draft party super happy by drafting Matthew Schaefer first overall, but then finding a way to get Higgins to the island. And I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility that it could happen on Friday.
I don't disagree. Listen, they're the stars of the draft because they get Matthew Schaefer, and their fans, rightfully so, are going to go bonkers about getting Matthew Schaefer, and they should. And then I think, to your point, if you want like the John Collins sizzle, and what's the one thing we know about John Collins? He loves the sizzle. And this is a team that needs the Winter Classic happen. I know. This is a team that needs. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I'm like pretty excited for the Islanders now. I really am. Now that all of a sudden it's going to be Matthew Barzal unleashed, right? And here comes Matthew Schaefer, and there's a lot of intrigue about what's happening with Noah Dobson. What's this lineup going to look like? How good and when is he going to debut? Cal Ritchie. Like, all of a sudden there's like little desk markers all throughout the schedule here, where Islanders fans get to have and I guess like have a peek at the future. The one big thing you have to figure out is whose timeline are you doing it on? By the way, if I were the Islanders right now, I would trade Casey Cizikas. That kind of player is in demand right now. $2.5 million times 2 years.
I go higher than that.
What's that? Oh, I know. There's others you can trade, but I'm saying like
I trade Barzal. I would trade Barzal.
Jim Rutherford, are you listening? You want to talk about bring him home?
I think that you could sell so high on Barzal.
I don't disagree.
And get at least two roster players and then futures for him. I'm not saying that they should. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying that if you really wanted to kind of flip the script on this team and this franchise, like, I would kind of look to do it right now. Could you imagine just sending him to Buffalo, get Peterka back, and like, I don't know, like Owen Power?
No.
Barzal?
Vancouver for Elias Pettersson. Pettersson Horvat up the gut.
Just you're rebuilding the 2023 Canucks.
Vancouver
2022 Canucks.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. Actually, here, so I was on with Steph Rosner on his podcast yesterday, the Belmonters, and I think that's coming out on Friday. A couple of clips are already out there. A great name. And so this was my idea. So Matt Martin retires. Great, wonderful career. Man, was he crazy enough to always invite Zdeno Chara to fight him. Always fighting a Hall of Famer. I was really happy to see that.
Right? Wasn't that Rempe's first fight with Matt Martin?
Oh, was Matt Martin his first one? Ooh.
Wasn't that the fight that he had in the outdoor game? Zach would know. Like, I think that was the outdoor game in MetLife. I think it was Matt Martin and Rempe.
Wasn't there a preseason Ross Johnston? Wasn't there a preseason Ross Johnson fight with Matt Rempe? Even though it wasn't.
There probably was, but the preseason doesn't count.
In my world, it does. It was a hockey game.
Oh, can we talk about preseason for a second?
1 second. Yes. Here's my idea. Quickly. Please. To my point about Casey Cizikas, I was mentioning this with Steph. How'd you feel about this? So Matt Martin comes in as a special advisor or whatever his position is going to be with Matthew Darche. Great move by the Islanders.
Special assistant to the general manager, not to be confused with assistant general manager, as we learned from The Office.
Perfect. So, welcome to management. Here's what we'd like you to do. We have traded your former line mate, Casey Cizikas. You want to become one of us? You make the phone call. You go tell Casey Cizikas that we've traded him.
Wow.
You make Matt Martin make the phone call.
Jeez.
Then you become one of us.
Trial by fire. I want to mention this I should have mentioned this way earlier, but like,
go ahead.
I don't have a podcast, as you know. Like, I don't have really a show outside of this.
Come on, the door's wide open. You come.
Well,
here
no.
with me.
I have this podcast, but I don't really have like one of my own anywhere anymore. And so I don't really have a chance to say these things. So I'll just say this here because this is our podcast.
Yeah.
Next CBA.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if we are short 2 preseason games and plus 2 regular season games.
I don't think that'd be a surprise. Yeah.
In the next CBA.
Next
that's
CBA.
One.
So as everybody,
does
that mean the season starts a week earlier?
Well, those are the details that I haven't reported out. But the 2 things I'm pretty sure of is that it will get 84 games, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to get the playoff salary cap. I think and the playoff salary cap will be a thing where you can literally have $1 billion in player salaries on your extended roster.
But
what you put on the ice has to be cap compliant. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. So that's good. Having said that, aren't we going the wrong way with games here?
Yes.
As everyone is screaming, get your game out of June. We're adding games.
That I find really fascinating is because a couple of people I've talked to are like, the players are going to absolutely love a lot of this CBA. There's going to be a couple little things maybe they don't like. Yeah. And how much attention will be paid to the things they don't like? Because these are players. This is a labor union. You know what's going to happen ultimately, which is that the focus will be on the things they didn't get.
Yep.
An 84-game season is one of those things where I think a lot of people are kind of like wondering what the reaction from the players is going to be, because it ain't like all of a sudden they're getting, extra money for those games in their current contracts. It's going to be fascinating from what I gather, it's going to be part of the deal. But if it's part of the deal, it's going to be to see what the reaction is.
You know what I think of when I think 84 games? What? Load management. Get ready for teams resting players. I know they already do down the stretch. Get ready for it to happen more.
This has been cooking forever. The 2 additional games have always been kind of framed as being ones where you can throw an extra Edmonton Calgary game on the calendar, or an extra, Penguins Flyers game on the calendar. And if that's the case, like, it makes total sense. And obviously, these teams know they can get more revenue out of a regular season game than they can a preseason game, which is also part of it too. But ultimately, you're right. Like, we are going in the wrong direction right now. We're going. A lot of people would say we're going in the wrong direction with number of teams. Yeah, we're going in the wrong direction with the number of players. But baby, gotta keep that HRR flowing.
But here's the thing: like, once they signed off, once the players signed off on linkage at 50-50, there ain't no going back.
Yeah,
there's not, because anything that grows the pot and contributes to hockey-related revenue and knocks down their escrow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're all about it because they have this limited window.
So for the aggregators, Greg Wyshynski, wouldn't be surprised if 84 games is official in the next CBA.
Okay.
For you, NHL watcher, NHL rumors.
Get it right.
That's the proper aggregation of what I've just said. Wouldn't be surprised.
Wouldn't be
84
surprised.
Games is official in the next CBA.
Okay, very good. Listen, great piece on McDavid. Enjoyed every line of it. I encourage people to go check that out at ESPN.com. The one and only Greg Wyshynski here on The Sheet. Enjoy the Islanders party and all the surprises that may come along with it as well. Spoiler, Matthew Schaefer is very good. Matthew Schaefer,
and also
Greg, skates like Jay Bouwmeester. Check it out. It's freaky.
And the best part about Matthew Schaefer, doesn't talk like Jay Bouwmeester, is one of the best personalities that I think I've ever come across for a draft prospect, and that's going to be one of the coolest things about him for the Islanders.
Matthew Schaefer talks. You could have just ended it there. Jay Bouwmeester, like when you think about like longest career and fewest words said in a career, Jay Bouwmeester's got to be number one.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I'll nominate Chris Kreider for that award too.
Not like Jay Bouwmeester, man.
Words you can hear from a decibel standpoint. Maybe that's Kreider, but yeah, Phil Kessel maybe on that list. By the way, Hall of Fame eligible next year, Phil Kessel.
I would love it if he went in just to hear the speech.
He's not.
Make it happen. Can we just will this thing into happening? I want Joe Meloche to go in. I've been banging. I want Lauren Shabbat to go in. I've been dying for this for my entire life.
A Phil Kessel Hall. Yeah. Great. Great honor. So thanks. Walks off the stage.
Yeah, it'd be great. We'd all love it. All right, you enjoy the Islanders party. You'll be good.
Bye.
Greg Wyshynski from ESPN.com. You can check him out on that fine website. In the meantime, as we wrap things up here, anything stand out there from that goofy conversation with me and Wish? We didn't even get to the crispy inbox question, by the way, which was a really good one too. Let's save it for tomorrow. I think we're doing crispy again tomorrow. Okay. Save it till tomorrow because it's a good one. Yeah, it's about benches.
We are.
It's about benches. Yes. Yeah, we look forward.
Just the conversation about McDavid. I'm not even saying that from like the Toronto perspective, but the approach that he would take of free agency or signing the next contract and how that would go and how Wish kind of envisioned things potentially going. Term, AAV, and what the things are that he's looking for, and it being beyond just, well, my friend Leon Draisaitl has signed here, which I think is something that was first discussed on this show and was scoffed at, spat on, maybe kicked.
run over forwards and backwards a few times. Shoot up, spat out, ridiculed.
Yeah, and
here we are.
The fact that we're here and having the conversation.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, kudos to you guys, but I just think that's one of those spots where it's whatever that thing is, but I just think it's interesting. Like, maybe we don't know sometimes about players, not just
what?
Maybe we don't actually know these things, and
yeah.
I think it would also fit in, by the way, not providing anything new here, but it just fits in with the MO of what a lot of these new players and agents are doing, given the uncertainty of the cap in a positive light. Oh, well, the cap may go up by some extreme number in the next 3 years. Okay, well, I could get a ticket in 3 years that I can't necessarily hit right now.
Yeah,
I'm Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, William Nylander, blah, blah, blah.
Take short term.
Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar.
I know injuries are a concern.
You're going to be some of the best players.
I know hockey's a dangerous game. Injuries a concern. You want that security, but take the short-term deals.
And
just kill
for me,
one
of the reasons why it's so interesting is it's a more of a comment and a conversation about the bigger picture of the NHL and the landscape of the contracts and where these could go. And something I had always wondered, or I guess with the CBA coming up, had wondered more so if there would be conversations about the term on these contracts and if we could see those change and we could go towards NBA lengths. But
if you want to knock contracts down, and I'm a player, like, okay, then I'm just like, we're not going to be able to flatten cap out. That's fine. There's no way to flatten. There's no way to flatten things out then.
Yeah. Okay, I'll. What do you think about this? If you return to a team, you can sign an 8-year deal, right?
If you return to a team,
return to your team, right? Like the max years that you can sign is 8-year deal. If you leave, the max that you could sign is a 6-year deal.
Well, right now it's 7.
Yeah, so we're taking another one off. So if you leave,
okay, so you're taking one more year off.
One more year off, yeah, one more year off, and just bumping that down. So the players who decide to move, okay, even when you decide you're going to do it, or you're going to go to free agency and sign a long-term deal, the max that you can get is 6. It's not that different than the 7, but what I wonder is, does this make the sign-in trade and the importance of the extra years that much more meaningful to players? This has no relevance to anything, really. I just was thinking about it when I was thinking about the contracts and if they could change the years. But then I started thinking about it like, okay, how does that benefit a team or GMs or whatever? Well, what if it's more incentive to both? Okay, you're going to leave. Maybe it means a little bit more to us to trade at the draft for X pick or next year's 5th round pick, even just so that you could go somewhere and get 2 years out of it.
Either way, like this sort of winks at something we've been talking about all year when it comes to the salary cap, and that is like it's time to take the training wheels off the cap. Right? Like, this goes back to 2005.
100%.
Like, okay, now we got this. Now let's do something with the salary cap. Let's, like, evolve this thing to reflect, because, like, the league is bigger, the league is different, the league is worth more, billions more dollars than it was back in 2005 when the salary cap first came in. Let's let this, the league has grown up, but the salary cap is still in the crib. Like, let's let the salary cap get out of the crib here. Let's do some things here with the cap. I know it might be make it more complicated, but that's fine. Give your team the ability to do stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I know you don't follow it as much, but like the NBA and the NFL salary caps, nobody ever knows what the hell they mean at any given moment. Like, you will see the biggest contracts you've ever seen in your entire life, the numbers thrown around for these guys. I think that's like, wow, how does the team have that room? And then it's just like, they just do. They do. You know what that is?
And I've seen teams do that. I think that Chicago did this with Brian Campbell once upon a time. There are some contracts that teams will look at, and maybe the league will look at and say, that contract's great for marketing because it makes us look big. Like, do you not, like, aren't you like every now and then like kind of like about hockey when you're saying like, oh wow, this guy's getting $5 million, what an overpay. You know how small that makes hockey look?
I know. You know how often hockey gets dunked on social media by people who are outside of it, who are just like,
ooh, we got $3 million.
Here's the 7th player on the worst team in the NBA who makes $18 million a year.
I know.
And we're like, did the Leafs overpay on Nylander at 11.5? He's one of the top whatever in the league. And then we're like,
I know.
Oh my Lord. Like, yes, in the context of hockey, that's an important conversation, but big picture, it's always just like, oh.
Look, what put the WHA on the map, rival to the NHL back in the 70s? The Bobby Hull contract, the $1 million contract. It made them look big. Anyway, I just sort of lobbed that out. We got one more thing to do here before we hustle off into the Into the rest of our evening. The Sheet is powered by FanDuel, as you know, our good friends there. Home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel is proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Zach, what matters to us right now?
I am really, really glad FanDuel put this up because I didn't see it before.
What'd they do?
And I think you're going to like it a lot.
Let's see.
In the spirit of the PWHL, handing out awards and the draft and the expansion draft coming out.
We're not a fast Defender of the Year. Love it.
Including, we got some PWHL futures for next year, and there was something that caught my eye, and I'm going to present it to you, and I'll see if it catches your eye.
How about Abby Rock getting traded? How about Abby Rock getting traded to Montreal? Kristen O'Neill goes the other way. KO is done in Montreal. Ooh, whopper.
These are the favorites to win the Walter Cup in 2025-2026. What do you notice about this list, Jeff?
Listen, that's what everybody is saying. They are juggernauts, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have an expanded. I know.
Yeah.
I know, but anyone who follows it looks at that and goes like, oh yeah, Vancouver's already built a juggernaut. But now with it comes the weight of expectation, of course. But yeah, the two expansion teams, and that's what they wanted. They wanted them to come in as winners. They want them to come in because the other thing you have to consider here too is the league still owns all these teams, and I don't know that the league is going to start selling off teams, to be honest with you, until they hit 12. That's what someone had mentioned to me a while ago. Like they want the TV contract. And that's why I think all these different waves of expansion are going to hit different time zones. So they can do things like if it's ESPN, you can do double headers and you hit different marketplaces. Because the first thing they'll ask you is, okay, which markets do you have and which time zones do you have? And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why, and I know people get out of the desert, get out of the desert. This is why Phoenix was always important. Whether it was quote unquote working in the desert, anytime you go for a national buy or a national TV package or whatever, the first question is, okay, tell us the markets you have. Oh, why don't you have Phoenix? Oh, we find that hockey doesn't work there. We want Phoenix. Okay. We just want to know that we have coverage in that area. So anyways, I don't think that the PWHL is going to look to sell these teams until they hit a dozen. So maybe even, as crazy as this might sound, and it's right after an Olympic cycle where you're probably going to lose some athletes too, could we be talking about expansion again next year with the PWHL? As they try to get to 12, looking for a TV contract and looking for probably NHL teams to buy some of these PWHL squads. Anyway, this is a side trip that I'm going on here, but none of that's surprising, especially Vancouver. Vancouver looks amazing. Vancouver looks awesome. You're right. This could be an expansion team winning the Walter for sure.
Yeah, not surprising, but just it's kind of one of those ones where you go and look at it at the odds to see who's favored to win, and you're like,
I think FanDuel
both expansion teams,
right? Again, it's right now, and they haven't played a game, but I think FanDuel is bang on that one. Vancouver looks good. Vancouver looks really, really good, and it's Olympic year next year, and we'll see what happens after that Olympic cycle. And kind of getting ahead of myself here, but you wonder how many veterans come back afterwards. How many just bluntly go off and start families after the next Olympic cycle as well, or park it for the Olympics and maybe that's it for the career. Who knows? There's a lot of there may be a significant drop off in superstars after the next Olympics. We'll see how it goes. But that is the conversation that's happening, certainly amongst athletes. And if it's happening amongst athletes, it's happening amongst everybody. That's why I wonder about the league may want to expand quickly. I just don't know that the athletes are going to be there and the star power is going to be there to replenish as quickly as some either just take time off or peace out on the career. We'll see. All right.
I think it'll be interesting to watch. Yeah. The Olympics and everything thrown in there is just a very interesting wrinkle in both leagues right now. So just continue to watch how teams will handle that. Talking about more games, like Wish was bringing up less preseason, and now all of a sudden we're going to have
games. You're going to be
It's
like,
just,
you have to
handling
rest
all
guys.
of that is
Hockey's hard, man.
yeah.
Hockey's hard. And then at the end of the 84, then the real season starts.
Yeah.
I don't know how these guys survive, man. That's why no one gets out clean.
I don't know.
That's why no one gets out clean. Everyone's got something by the time they're done. Okay. Zach, great job. Thanks to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN for stopping by the program as he does every week. Rocky Thompson is going to be one of our guests tomorrow. Bridgeport Islanders head coach, as announced earlier on this week by the Islanders. So Rocky's going to stop by as well. More on the NHL draft on Friday. Don't forget our draft watch along, me and Peter McGuire with a slew of guests all throughout the entire evening. That goes Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern, right here on our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Do the likes, hit the subscribe, do the favorites, all those things that we love, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform. Leave the reviews, say kind words, or throw darts. It's fine. It's all good. It's all engagement. I love it all. And thanks to you for paying attention for over an hour here consistently and specifically on today's show. Talk to you tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget Morning Cup of Hockey at 9 a.m. Eastern, DFO Live at noon, and then me, Zach, Rocky Thompson, and at least one other guest tomorrow on the show. Deal? We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.